Welcome back to digital class, and now we're looking at table and graph. So we'll be discussing about this topic, and I need you to pay a bit attention, especially on the graph part. Okay. Now, table. I believe most of you know what is a table. This table is not a physical desk table, but it's on the statistic type of table, as you can see here. So a table basically is the way how we organize information. Okay, it's the way that we organize information in a clearer way instead of just describing in paragraph or sentences. And it is organized in rows and columns. Though, in case you don't know what is row is like this. As you can see here, this is row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is row. Okay. And what do we mean by column? Column is something like this. First column, this is column. The second column. So this is column. So row goes like this. Column goes like this. Okay. And table, we organize this in rows and column. Why? Because it will really help us read, compare, and understand data easily. So you can see, example, if I talk about number of cupcakes, so April 30, May 35, June 45, July 20. So when you look at it, you know exactly which one have more, which one have less. That's why table is actually very good in organizing information clearly. And a table can organize in two ways, vertical table and horizontal table. So vertical table, as you can see, is like this. Horizontal, as you can see, is something like this. If you ask me which one is better, again, it's up to you. But in exam, it can either come out in vertical table or horizontal table. But you need to know how to read the information. And perhaps I think it's simple enough for you to read, unless they put in a lot of different information. Okay, let's move on to graph. Now, graph is something important. Now, graph is a kind of a picture that shows information from a table. Now, example, the same thing, the cupcakes. If I put like this, you can kind of know the value exactly. But if I had to put in a bar graph example, then I can kind of see the trend very even easier. Example, you can see April I have lesser, then June I have more, then July I drop. So you can see the kind of the trend very easily. Okay, and same thing, if you look at the line graph, it goes like this, then go like this. So that is the beauty of graph, because you can kind of compare immediately rather than looking at just numbers. Okay. And when it comes to graph, as you can see here, the two common graph that we can see here is bar graph and line graph. So this is bar graph and this line graph. I mean, own has its uniqueness in doing something, but one special thing about line graph, as you can see here, right? This is not really like mentioned clearly in the textbook, but I just want to try to differentiate it so you can not deceived by this. Okay, now pay a bit more attention to listen to what I'm going to say now. In the line graph, there are two common type of line graph that I own self define it. Okay, the first one is called the discrete line graph, and the second one is called the aggregated line graph. Okay, don't be confused what are these big names. I just simply give a name. It's not something important, the names, but you need to differentiate the two types. Okay, that is the most important thing. Let's look at the first one first. What do I mean by this discrete line graph? I kind of describe it as the one that the values do not build on each other. For example, I say the temperature at 2 p.m. on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Does the temperature on Tuesday depending on Monday? Not really, right? Wednesday depending on Tuesday? No. So means that it's a discrete, means that it's individual own data or own information. Number of students each day, absent each day? No. Amount of rain on different days? No. Okay. Even the number of cupcakes sold, in this case, is a kind of individual, right? April, May, June, July. So this is the values do not build on each other. But on the other side, there's a different line graph, which I name it as aggregated line graph. This one is important. Why? Because it's very, very tricky. This one, the values build up or down from the earlier ones. Huh? What do you mean? Let me give you an example. A student's height from 2020 to 2023. Let me just give you an example. If I were to say, I'm just giving an example. There's 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. I'll say this is year, and I'll say this is height. Example, I'm just drawing a graph like this. Oh, too tall. Like this, ding, 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 ding. Someone going like this. Example, I'll say, this is 1.4 cm, 1.5, 1.55, example 1.7. This is in meter, okay? Now, I would say this is aggregated line graph, means that this value is built on this value. But teacher, how does it build with this value? But do you notice that this is actually depending on this? Means that this also built up from here. Now, I can ask you first question. What is the height in 2022? Example. Then you can tell me the answer, 1.55 meter. But I can ask you a more in-depth question. What is the increase between 2021 and 2022? Then what you need to do, now you need to minus. So be 1.55 minus 1.5 and then give you 0.05 meter. So can you see that it's actually, I'm calculating the increase part here already now, not only just value itself. That's why I name it as an aggregated line graph. It's like depending on the previous one. But even though uh, this might sound very obvious, or this is under this category, but I can change the question to a totally different style also. Mm, but before that, let's talk about this one first, okay? Saving in a bank account from month to month. I can say, right, example, this is January, this is February, this is March. I say this is my money, amount of money I have at the end of the month. Example, here is like this, like this, like this, going up. Example this is 500, this is 1000, this is 1000 to 300 lah. Okay. Now, can I say on February I earn 1000? No, because what I need to find out is the increase part. So if I will ask you, February, how much did I earn or I put in money inside the bank? And you need to find 1000 minus 500 equal to 500. You cannot just say, oh, 1000 is the answer. That is a tricky part about this aggregated line graph. Okay. And of course, it can come out with the distance traveled during a walk, total money collected over time. Again, in exam or in test, you must be able to differentiate that graph. Is it just a simple graph, a discrete line graph, or is it an aggregated line graph? Okay, it's important for you to notice and find out the difference between these two. Okay, yes, and I think I've been nagging too much, but that is basically the table and also graph. It usually is not something very difficult, but it's something you need to be very, very careful when you read the question. Okay, and that's it. Thank you. See you. Bye bye.